Hello all and welcome, and I am the MGTOW philosopher. And in this video, I would like to talk about a story I just came across that is talking about men who were sexually abused by women, and these men tell their stories. Now, first off, I'd like to say that I don't believe that physically or intellectually or even emotionally that men and women are equal. We're talking about things like that. We're talking about intrinsic qualities that are based on biology and evolution. But when we're talking about a person's capacity to do good or do evil, I do believe wholeheartedly that men and women are equal in this sense, meaning that women are in no way more pristine or more noble or less capable of being degenerates than men. No way. When it comes to the ability to do good or do evil in the world, men and women are indeed equal, something that will be driven home by this article. So let's get into it, shall we? So, Aaron Gilmore, in this picture, said it's important to tell people about sexual abuse, and he's right. Yeah, it's important for men to be stoic and strong, but not to that extent. If you're abused sexually, you should talk about it, especially since that's all women can do. They love the victim culture. They are professional victims. They eat that shit up. They can't wait to be victims. They tell everybody about what victims they were, even if they weren't. So men, if you are actual victims and not what is oftentimes pretend victims, meaning going out and looking for things that are supposed victimization or making shit up or creating situations where you'll somehow end up being the victim or decrying yourself as the victim, as often times women do, then you need to talk about it if you're a real victim. Now, of course, I'm not saying there aren't women victims out there, but oftentimes, they are not victims. They just claim to be so they can get some victimhood points. So Aaron Gilmore was not even a teenager when he was sexually abused by a family friend who he regarded as a second mother. You see, this is how women rape and abuse men. Now, of course, I don't know of any laws in the country where women are charged with rape. Does it even happen? I don't think so. I think rape is classified as forceful penetration, meaning only a man can rape. I don't know where this... Why is that the qualification? Why isn't it just forceful sex or sex with somebody who isn't able to legally give consent? Oh, why? Because feminists wrote these laws. That's why, to protect themselves and to punish men inordinately more than women. Of course. But that is odd. I mean, not when you think about it in the sense that women have designed the system to protect themselves, essentially, and to punish men. So it's really not that odd, I suppose. You would have thought by now that somebody would have saw that disparity and said, that's really odd, because women are raping young boys and nobody's doing anything. We don't even call it rape. We call it sexual assault, and they get lesser jail sentences. Anyway, if you need any more proof that there is... a bias in the legal system, all you need to do is look at the different charges that are put against women as opposed to men. Women don't get charged with rape, generally speaking. It's not even written into the law that a woman could be charged with rape. Only sexual assault in most places, most cases. Now, this is really disturbing. When he reported it to police years later, they told him they couldn't see what crime had taken place. I love it. So, a grown woman essentially rapes a young boy. We don't see a crime. Really? I mean, what kind of police are these? Are you kidding me? What's going on here? Ken Clearwater was 12 years old when he said he was sexually violated by a woman and used to do things he could never comprehend and was left scarred, ashamed, and broken. See, this is why you hear so much more about men being these horrible offenders, how it's the men that are doing the raping. Yeah. And you throw in the rapes in prison, well, then more men are raped than women, and women are like, well, yeah, but it's still men doing the raping, so men are the problem. Toxic masculinity is the problem. You need to cut that shit off at the source and just kill all men. Uh-huh. Wouldn't the species end if you did that? Well, anyway, let's get past the irrational, irrational feminist argument. So essentially, their argument is that, well, the problem is still men. Even if they are getting raped more, they're still getting raped more by men. But that's not true. That's not true. You're just not hearing about the people that women rape. You see, men, by and large, tend to rape women and use violence because, well, they have greater physical strength. They've developed to use strength to get what they want. Women have developed a little differently. Women have developed to use emotion, to use manipulation, and to prey on the weak. You see, that's what rape is for a woman, preying on the weak. That's why we've got this whole narrative about how rape is about power, so only men can rape. Because with men, it's all about power and control, and they use violence and everything. So the word power comes up, power, and women have no power, and they can't rape a man using power, so women can't rape. Yeah, nonsensical argument, of course. Since rape is about having sex with someone who cannot give consent. And by the way, if you're raping a child, if you're a woman, oftentimes you'll be stronger. And even if that's not the case, even if you're talking about someone who's 13, 14, 15, he's still not able to give consent, and he's a slave to his hormones. He would have sex with a billy goat. That's not the point. You're still going to scar that kid for life. It's still rape. It's no different. It's no better, no worse. It is unbelievable that people don't see that it's the same thing, that rape is rape, and that women rape as often as men. They just choose different victims based upon the tools they have available. Yes, they're physically weaker, but they have a greater ability to manipulate, and they have the male's hormones that are out of control at such a young age. They use every weapon they have in their arsenal except for physical force, but it doesn't matter. It's still rape. So Ken Clearwater, he was left scarred, ashamed, and broken. He never reported that abuse or named the woman involved. Right. And this is another reason that people don't know that women rape as much as men, because men don't talk about it. We're ashamed because men are taught to be strong, and when they have a point in their life when they're powerless, they feel shame. And of course, men that are raped, there's no such thing. This is not something that's talked about. It's stigmatized if you're a man and you've somehow been raped. You'll be made to feel like a weakling. You'll be made to feel like you're less than. You'll be shamed by other people for it. Nobody will take you seriously. Nobody. You want to talk about not being believed? These pathetic women running around talking about how believe her narrative, believe her. Nobody has not believed women, okay? But people don't even take men seriously. You want to talk about a victim who isn't taken seriously or believed? Talk about male victims of sexual assault. Why aren't feminists who supposedly want equality, why aren't they championing men who are raped? Oh, well, because it's never been about equality. It's always been about superiority, and they don't care. They don't care. Goes on to say, both men carried a deep shame for years, worried that police and society wouldn't believe that they had been abused by women. Right. There's only one thing that's worse than being raped by a woman in this manner, or raped, period. It's not being believed. Like you're somehow making it up, and then you're going to be ridiculed by people as if you're somebody just looking for attention, or you're some pathetic loser. I mean, can you imagine how that would feel? That we live in a society that would lead people to feel that way? And so men continue to suffer in silence, the way that women claim that they have to. Meanwhile, every goddamn resource in society is available to them. Tons and tons of domestic abuse shelters ad infinitum, rape shelters ad infinitum, tons and tons of help, tons and tons of resources for them. The cops will automatically believe a woman and just go arrest the guy who says, boo, this guy hurt me, without any corroborating evidence. Meanwhile, men cannot ever report that they've been raped, or they will be laughed out of the building. They won't even be taken seriously. Just like this guy, Aaron Gilmore, who reported the crime, and the police said, meh, we don't see a crime. Are you kidding me? Yeah, keep eating your donuts, cops, you lazy bums. The story goes on to say, both men carried a deep shame for years, where society wouldn't take them seriously, and both men believe this is why males don't come forward to report it. Right, and that's what feminists want. That's what feminists want, so that they can continue to push this bullshit narrative that men are more violent, more predatory than women. and therefore reinforce this belief in toxic masculinity and to destroy masculinity in men so they'll be as weak and malleable as the useful idiots that women are. To continue, now a father of two and the owner of a dancing school in Auckland, Mr. Gilmore told news.com.au, Australia, oh God, one of the most cucked countries in the world. They talk about man droughts in that country. No honeys, no ladies. There's no man droughts. Your expectations, your standards have just gotten so freaking high, your unrealistic standards, I might add, that you don't see all the men. The only men you see are specific men, like drive this particular kind of car, or wear these particular kind of clothes, or have this specific amount of cash. And everybody else, they don't exist to you. There's no man drought, okay? You just only see specific men, so it seems like there's a man drought to you. So, the grooming, he says, yeah, women groom too. In fact, I would argue that women, and it seems to be the case, that women are probably more likely to be pedophiles than men because men have the physical strength to subdue a woman while women do not. So they're more likely to use manipulation on a younger, weaker victim to control and manipulate them. The grooming began at 11 after Hendrika Margaret Chasky noticed he was a troubled kid craving attention. Yeah, women are just as capable of being predators as men. Amazing, isn't it? It shouldn't be amazing considering they always talk about how men and women are equal, yet somehow women are better. The story goes on to say she was jailed for 5 years for the sexual violation of Mr. Gilmore in 2003. Sexual violation? She raped him. 5 years for raping an 11-year-old? Just more evidence of the corruption of almost every single legal system in the Western world. Oh, but men and women are equal. Certainly not in the eyes of the law, they're not. It goes on to say, initially, Chasky was charged with cruelty to a child, but this was upgraded to sexual violation. So in the beginning, they didn't even want to charge her with that serious a crime. Interesting. Somebody must have contacted the media or something and shamed the prosecutor, end up in the charges. In 2005, New Zealand law was changed, which raised the maximum jail term to 10 years for any sexual connection with a person under 16. Okay, so this was in New Zealand, and the newspaper is the news.com.au. Okay. Easy enough misunderstanding on my part. The newspaper says it's an Australian one, but it's not surprising. I mean, different countries, newspapers all the time. We'll interview people from other countries. If it's a relevant subject, let's continue, shall we? So, a jail term to 10 years for sexual connection with a person under 16. And yet, she didn't get 10 years. She got 5 years. Ay, ay, ay. While the New Zealand Dancing with the Stars performer has learned to cope with what took place during his formative years, it left him feeling numb like a shell. Yeah. Just like a woman would be. And maybe even worse, because for a man, he essentially is supposed to be strong and able to protect himself. Men are, when this happens to a man, he's much more likely to internalize and not express his feelings and not get some kind of help. Now, I don't in any way advocate for that. I say men should be strong and stoic, but if something like this happens to you, if you're a woman, you have all sorts of help and all sorts of sympathy, and everybody's there for you. It's much easier to be a victim if you're a woman. There's so many resources available. If you're a man, there's zero. Not only that, but you feel shame because society teaches us somehow bad and wrong that you got victimized, and nobody's going to believe you, and nobody ever talks about what happens to men ever because, oh no, women don't victimize. Only men victimize. Only men abuse women. Women don't abuse men. Horse shit. He said he felt he was unable to escape from the abuse. He's 11 years old. What's he going to do? And he has his shame, so he stayed silent. Consent can't really be given when you're in that state, no matter how immature or mature you may feel. Yeah, that's why there's age of consent laws. He said of the abuse, which went on until he was 18. Chasky, was genuinely nice to me. Yeah, she wanted your cock. Of course she was nice to you. I didn't have that kind of relationship with my mother. I even called for her my second mother. So this is just like a male pedophile. This is just a pedophile is a pedophile is a pedophile. They all follow the same script, man or woman. So I always said, when it comes to human beings' ability to do good or evil, men and women are equal. Stop with this bullshit of vilifying men and trying to make it look like they're somehow wrong, somehow more evil. And of course, this is all designed to destroy masculinity. She won my trust. When alarm bells started to ring as the abuse became more sexual, he said she assured him it was their special secret. This all sounds textbook. This is textbook pedophilia, textbook. He began to stay over and eventually moved in with Shasky after his parents accepted her home as closer to his high school. My question is, what the hell's going on with these parents? These got to be the worst parents in the world. Or what parents are so pathetic? I mean, of course, obviously, he felt closer to this woman like she was his second mother, so his parents must have been neglectful. My God, this guy felt closer to them than his real mother, and he would rather live with them than his real mother, and his parents were perfectly comfortable with him living with these people. I wouldn't let my kids live with some person. I don't care how much closer it is to the high school. Talk about bad parents. Ay, ay, ay. It was what he called a typical grooming story. Yeah, obviously, very typical. What started as hugging and kissing on the cheek soon progressed to much more. But as the months wore on, he said he became more uncomfortable with this situation and wanted out. Jeez Louise. What people don't understand is that men suffer in silence. Women, because they live in their little bubbles where they're so protected from reality and they have their little ideologies to inform them about reality. So they don't know what the real world is like. They don't seem to understand that men suffer more than women do, okay? Okay, because we have no sympathy from society. Society hates us, okay? And we have no resources out there to help us if and when a man is abused in this manner. So men, by and large, don't say anything. So the truth is that men are abused just as much as women. Maybe more, because it would make perfect sense. Because again, women prey on weakness, okay? And women, by the way, are in many more positions of authority and power in the education system that they can take advantage of to abuse boys, okay? There are far more women in education and childcare than men. So chew on that. And there's Aaron, who is now a father of 2. You got to feel for this guy. You should feel for this guy. Of course, feminists couldn't feel for this guy because he's a man, and they believe that men are beneath even second-class citizens, and they're bordering on subhuman. So you don't have to feel anything for subhuman people. They had it coming to them. They're men. Or, his suffering doesn't matter. Of course it doesn't. If you're a feminist, of course. Women are the only thing that matter. But we're supposed to be about equality. Now, we're about destroying men. Destroy them all! The story goes on to say, but when he told her, meaning the abusive piece of crap, pedophile, rapist woman, that he was uncomfortable, she burst into tears and threatened to tell his parents, telling him it was his fault. Only from a woman. Only a woman could be this brilliant and manipulative. And of course, the parents might actually believe her because men, as we all know, can't be victims. And he's, at this point, bigger and stronger than her. It must be his fault because it's always the man's fault. The woman can never be the perpetrator of any crime of this nature. Oh, no! I was a shell, he said. I shut down. I just existed. Feeling trapped, he felt he had no choice but to stay. He managed to escape the situation when he was 18. Yeah, as you might know, most of the abuse goes on in these situations beyond being physical. The other half is psychological. So the abuser takes control. They make the other person feel powerless, like nobody will listen to them, like they have no other options. You essentially become a slave, okay? You become shackled to that person. But it wasn't until he went to counseling at 22 that he finally had the courage to report what took place. With the help of his partner and mother of his 2 children, he went to the police. The police's reaction was one he'll never forget. The officer said, "I'm failing to see a crime here." And my partner lost it. Well, justice was eventually served. Yeah, the cops. Oh, my God. Yeah, you know that whole dumbass man thing. Oh, gee, a boy. Geez, you were able to get an erection and a older woman wanted to have sex with you. Gee, I don't see the crime here. Anybody that says something like that is a moron. You're a moron if you say that. Moron! Mr. Gilmore said it was a long road to recover, and he still struggles with society's view of sexual abuse. Yeah, I mean, this bro idea, yeah, bro, yeah, you got it so young, you're so lucky. Idiots. Morons. Stupid, idiot morons. Do you have any idea the effect of this kind of rape has on a boy that young, and the effect that you minimalizing it and making it into a non-crime but some kind of positive has on them? Clearly, you've never been raped or sexually abused, so you don't know what it's like. Gee, it's not fun, I would think. Yeah, but you wouldn't know, so you make these jokes and you minimalize stupid idiot cops. He also said people needed to stop thinking men or boys enjoyed such abuse. Right, what I just said. Or that it was good practice. Yeah, right. That, yeah, bro, bullshit attitude is that wasn't helping men to talk about it. Right. That just makes them feel like nobody will take them seriously. Nobody's going to believe that they were violated or that they're a victim in any way, shape, or form. So why talk to anybody, right? And that's why people believe that women are overwhelmingly the victims of these types of crimes, which is not true. As for Ken Clearwater, he was just 12 years old when he said he was sexually violated. Already having suffered a rape at the hands of a man. Oh, my God. Jesus Christ. Well, yeah, you see, these kind of people, male rapists, female rapists, rapists in general, pedophiles, they have a victim radar. They have a weakness radar. They can spot weakness. They can spot what makes good prey. So I'm not surprised that he was raped and he had the kind of demeanor that the radar of a female perpetrator would just hone right in on. Because man or woman, the radar is the same, okay? Already having suffered rape at the hands of a man, he never expected to be abused by a woman. Of course, nobody does, even though women are 50% or more of the sexual abusers out there and 50% or more of the rapists out there. She sexually violated me and wanted me to do things to her that I couldn't even comprehend, the Christchurch man said of the second assault. That abuse, which followed a rape 6 months earlier, destroyed the tiny amount of innocence and trust he had left. Good Lord. He goes on to say, Alan William Davies was arrested and spent time in jail for abusing the young Ken Clearwater. That's the man that raped him after being charged with 2 counts of indecent assault. Well, the man who raped him went to jail. I wonder what happened to the woman. Ashamed, he didn't report the abuse of that. Of course. That's what society wants. Society wants you to feel shame. It's a feminist trope. It's a feminist creation, okay? It's created by feminists. This shame and bullshit, and it's also perpetrated by men, of course. But honestly, that's what feminists want. You don't get it. That's what they want. The feminists want that. They want you men to stay silent, okay? But other men are just as much to blame for that, yeah, bro, bullshit, like it's good practice. Give me a break. Ashamed, he of course didn't report the abuse at the hands of the woman or tell anyone out of fear no one would believe a confused boy. So of course the woman went without punishment. She made me lie in the bed beside her. She started touching me sexually and got me to touch her. He told news.com.au. I was scared and couldn't get an erection, and she laughed at me and said I wasn't a real man. Jesus Christ. No, lady, you're not a real woman. You're an animal. You're a monster. You're a disgusting piece of crap who can't get off, or you can't get a real man. You can't get a real man. You can't get an actual man. You need a little boy. Pathetic. And she was right. I was a frightened boy. Yeah, we're a frightened kid. Of course you couldn't get an erection. Serenity now, serenity now. This shit really pisses me off. Oh, man. And here's Ken now. He's an old guy. And there he is as a kid. Ken Clearwater today, an incident with he was a boy pictured around the time of abuse. Oh, jeez. How could anybody do that? Continuing, after the abuse that happened to me, I went from a happy little boy to a nasty, angry, sarcastic person. More than 50 years later, the father of 2 beautiful daughters still has difficulty trusting women. Gee, I wonder why. But nobody cares about what he suffered because he's a man, don't you know? And he's part of the evil patriarchy. He's the one that's created the mythical rape culture that somehow makes it okay and even encourages men to rape women, yet somehow he got raped, even though the system is designed to enfranchise him and give him privilege and not a woman privilege. Well, then how did he get raped in the first place? By a woman who has more privilege than him. That's how. He goes on to say, I struggle with relationships with women and feel that when I am in it, I am trapped. All the fault of a woman. Oh, but you're not going to hear about stories like this on the daily news. Oh, no, you're only going to hear about stories of men raping women, not women raping men. Of course not. And when I say it's the fault of women, and I say it's also the fault of men, it's really more the fault of women. That's what I'm trying to push. It's the fault of feminists, because feminism pushes this feel shame routine by essentially creating no resources for men, not acknowledging, and this is the left, which is feminism, not acknowledging that this stuff happens to men, not talking about it in the media, And so men don't learn that it does happen to men too. They don't know that they shouldn't feel ashamed. They don't. And there's no resources. Where can they go? Where can men go? It's all the fault of feminists that these things happen. And it's the fault of feminists that they happen more because nobody talks about them. And these predators know that most of the time the kids are not going to say anything. So they can continue to abuse them. You see, feminists have created this candy store for rapists in their midst by creating this society, this Western culture, which makes men feel shame and makes them less likely to report these kind of crimes than a girl would be. Because everybody, oh my God, I mean, not only does a woman know that if it happens to her, she shouldn't feel shame, but she knows there's a million billion resources out there and tons of people still feel sympathy for her, and she'll get victimhood points if she reports it. Meanwhile, if a man reports it, he's not going to get victimhood points. He's going to get shamed and ridiculed, and nobody's going to believe him or take him seriously. Which means the crime is going to happen more, not less, and that's the fault of feminism. Evil, scumbag feminism. Alan, meaning the man that raped him, was charged, but I never told anybody about the woman as it was too shameful. And I probably wouldn't have spoken about Alan if he hadn't been caught. At 14, the young Ben was expelled from school for a confrontation with a teacher, lost his job at the freezer works for striking the foreman, and then was arrested for attacking 2 police officers in the 1980s. Now, those things they did something about. I started drinking alcohol at 12 and smoked cigarettes. It wasn't until 1972 I found marijuana, opium, LSD, cocaine. Yes, to hide from his pain. To hide from his pain, because there's no resources for him. There's plenty of resources and help, free help for women. But a man, jack shit. All these things helped me to get through the tough times. The biggest problem was alcohol, as I always got violent, whereas the marijuana helped me relax and forget the shit spinning around in my head. He took up boxing to feel more like a man and as a way of channeling his aggression. And here's Ken Clearwater boxing. I bet he was pretty good at it, too. He had a lot of anger to get out, I'm sure. All thanks to the feminists who've created Western societies where men cannot report rape, but women can. It is a veritable smorgasbord for the female rapist. And all along, people continue to believe men are overwhelmingly raping when it's women who are doing it. Now, at 63, he is now the manager of a male survivor of sexual abuse trust in Christchurch. Said he believes sexual abuse at the hands of both men and women remain massively underreported. No. He's just trying to sound egalitarian so he doesn't catch flack. Abuse at the hands of women is massively underreported. Abuse at the hands of men is not. Too many perks if you report your abuse if you've been abused by a man. If you've been abused by a woman, not so many. Mr. Clearwater said males are very reluctant to report sexual abuse because of shame, guilt, and fear, especially the fear of being seen as perpetrators, weak, gay, etc. Right, the woman could just say, he made me do it. And when the perpetrators, and of course they're going to believe her over him. And when the perpetrator is a woman, there is a fear you won't be believed, or that you shouldn't complain, and you should count yourself lucky. That is a stupid BS line spread by men who have never had to undergo this type of thing. People seem to think being a male victim is not as bad as being a female victim, which is wrong. It's sometimes worse. It's actually worse because you have nowhere to go. And that if the perpetrator is a female, the damage isn't as bad, not realizing the psychological damage it can do, and especially if that female is a mother. As in many countries, males have been seen as perpetrators and not victims, and our country is having trouble coming to terms with female perpetrators. Right, because the left and feminism mainly has spread this false narrative, and it's indoctrinated people to believe something that is totally false. So you're having to work past a lot of bullshit indoctrination to get people to understand certain things about men and women and how they're equal in their ability to do harm and commit evil acts. Unfortunately, with most people, you're running into a brick wall, and you're trying to break through it with your fists. Good luck. Mr. Clearwater went on to say that research conducted by Dr. Tess Patterson from the University of Ottawa with 9 of his clients revealed all had been sexually abused by males and half at the hands of women. Half of them. What that actually means is half were abused by men and half were abused by women. Okay, all 9. You're cherry picking here. So 9 were abused, but half of them were abused by women, half by men. That's a 50-50 50. Many of the men we work with have been abused by females. Of all the men we have worked with, only one has ever been to the police and reported it. Good God. Only one has reported it. So out of, many of the men. Now this is just, he's not talking about this original 9. He's talking about essentially every single person who's come to them to talk about it. Only one's reported it. So yeah, it's been massively underreported by men that they've been abused by women. The women receive a 5-year sentence, which is huge. The woman received a 5-year sentence, which is huge and unusual in New Zealand. Yeah, because New Zealand is one of those cucked feminist countries. So yeah, that is unusual. And here's Ken Clearwater pictured during his TED Talk in Queenstown earlier this year. And at a TED Talk in Queenstown in April, Mr. Clearwater said 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before their 16th birthday. We will never know how many boys and girls are being sexually abused. Some live with shame and guilt who take their own lives. Mostly boys, by the way, 87% of them. Another reason why men kill themselves because of sexual abuse at the hands of a woman. You won't hear about those numbers either because no research is done. Of course not. Men are worth nothing. Sexual abuse and violence is a human rights issue, not a gender issue, precisely. It's not a gender issue. It happens to both, overwhelmingly, to both. 50-50. He said, until we accept this, male victims of sexual abuse and violence will continue to be treated in a manner that is unfair and just. Well, until we get rid of feminism. When's that ever going to happen? In figures, exact numbers surrounding sex abuse are difficult to obtain, with many cases going unreported. Yeah, of course, because nothing is ever done about these kind of things when you're going to get numbers that are inconvenient for the current narrative, and the politically correct narrative is that men are overwhelmingly abusive, women are just these helpless, weak victims who wouldn't hurt a fly. So, of course, the exact numbers surrounding sex abuse are difficult to obtain, with many cases going unreported. Yeah, and the fact that no studies are ever done, not really. However, none that are in any way egalitarian as feminists are supposed to be. They're always biased, one-sided, and tilted towards finding about what happens to women. Nobody gives a damn about what happens to men and boys. Oh, no. However, in Ann Rowe's analysis of the 2013 Australian Bureau of Statistics Personal Safety Survey found women were still significantly more likely to have experienced sexual violence and assault than men. Bullshit! That's fucking Australia. This is so funny. It's already been stated that men, by and large, in the vast number of cases, don't report what happened to them. So trying to use these stilted, biased figures where the majority of men don't report and the majority of women do to claim that women are still experiencing more sexual assault than men is disingenuous and a lie. It's not in any way accurate. It found 1.5 million women, 17.1%, or 1 in 6 have experienced sexual assault, which, you know, by feminist standards and the standards in Australia can be anything from a pat on the butt to a touch on the cheek. I mean, and by the way, again, men don't report. So how do you know? How do you know when the majority of men don't report? That's been found to be statistically true. Oh, well, they don't know, but, you know, they want to continue the narrative. Around 33.5 times as many women reported sexual assault. Reported. Men don't report this stuff. Of course, it looks like more women are being assaulted. Okay? Well, when you start to talk to men who suffered abuse, you find that's half and half. Half abused by men, half abused by women. I mean, there is no difference. Nonsense. These figures is useless because men don't report. In 99% of cases, men don't report. So what do these figures prove? They don't prove anything. Now, this is very interesting because the rest of this means nothing because they've already admitted that it's all about who reports and not who's being abused. So this isn't about abuse that's been, all abuse is taken. We didn't know about it. We developed this, somehow we developed the omniscient ability to know everything, see everything that happens everywhere. And now we know that it's 50-50. No. This is just who's reported it. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. But this does tell you something. Surprisingly, more men experience sexual assault by a female, 130,000, than at the hands of another man. 72,000. Isn't that interesting? That tells you that when it came to the men who did report sexual abuse, the numbers were almost 50-50. They were almost 50-50. What the hell? Oh, but women don't do that. No, it's just 2% that are doing that horrible stuff, and the 98% that remains, well, that's all men's fault. That's all men. And keep in mind that those numbers, 130,000 as opposed to 72,000, represent all reported sexual assaults by a man that men have reported. Okay? You also have to keep in mind that most men are not going to report being abused by a woman. And even then, the numbers are almost 50-50. Imagine if all men who had been abused by a woman reported it. I guarantee you those numbers would be 50-50. In fact, I guarantee you it would be more than 50-50 because, again, women are going to be more likely to prey on weaker people like boys because they can, because that's who they are able to prey upon. The story continues with female sex perpetrators. While female sex perpetrators may seem rare, research released this month showed it's a lot more common than previously thought. No, really? A survey in the U.S. found that a similar amount of women reported being raped in a 12-month period as the amount of men who were made to penetrate a female. Oh, my head's about to explode. The media are evil scum. Even when they are telling a story they're supposed to be about men, for men, that is supposed to have sympathy and compassion for men, they don't even use the same terminology. They use this leftist, feminist, morally relativistic bullshit language where in a survey, the U.S. found that a similar amount of women reported being raped in a 12-month period. So if a woman is made to have sex by a man, it's rape. But if a man is made to have sex by a woman, it's not rape. Look at how they changed it. So woman being raped. Man, it's a man who's made to penetrate. And people who don't think language is important. Language is essentially important. It controls thought. Language comes from thought. Thought comes from language. If you control the words, you control how people think. So automatically the language is made to minimize, to change, to make, when it's done to a boy, seem like it's less important than if it happens to a woman, less severe. Yeah, more evidence that men, boys, are seen as having less or no value by society, by culture, by Western culture. Women being raped in a 12-month period, as opposed to men made to penetrate. Fucking bullshit language. They're both rape, you idiots! A new paper titled Sexual Victimization Perpetrated by Women, Federal Data Reveals Surprising Prevalence, contradicts the idea that female sexual perpetration is rare. Yeah, you didn't have to tell me that. I'm smart. I already know that. I'm not some stupid idiot controlled by propaganda and ideology. Fucking bullshit. Researchers used data from 4 main surveys, including from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, to reach their conclusion. Using CDC data, and these are all government organizations, by the way, which are still biased towards and favoring women, so you know the results are not going to be accurate. Whatever results they come out with, you can almost automatically assume it's worse than what they're telling you. They found that women and men reported a nearly equal rate of non-sexual sex in a 12-month period. Nearly equal? That means women are actually raping more than men. Or at the very least, equally. We all know it's equally. We all know that women and men have an equal propensity for evil. Nearly equal. They couldn't admit. They had to tweak and do a little cooking of the numbers, and then it comes out as nearly equal. Bullshit! It's equal, you idiots. That they'll even admit it's nearly equal is mind-blowing. It shatters the entire feminist narrative. It found 1.6% of women in the U.S. reported being raped in the past 12 months. And we know that the numbers can be as high as 40% of false rape reports. And we know that men are not going to report false rape. No man is going to report that some woman raped him and it's false. We know that women report a lot of false rapes. A lot. I've seen numbers that are as high as 40%. Men, you're not going to have any false reports. Come on. So we can conclude from even that small bit of speculation that is based on logic and reason that men are raped more than women, which is a similar rate to the 1.7% of men who reportedly were made to penetrate a perpetrator. What is that? What is this fancy-ass double talk language made to penetrate a perpetrator? What's that mean? What does that mean? It's just leftist speak for she raped him. He's the one penetrating, so, she can't be the one raping. I'm so angry. Okay, I'm calmed down a bit now. Let's continue. That's it. The story's over. So, yeah. So what it looks like is that we all know that a large percentage of women report false rape accusations. And it's not 2-3%. It's possibly as high as 40%. I've seen numbers of 40% in some areas. An across-the-board number for the whole country, Western world, 20-25%. So actually, women are at the very least on par with how many men they rape, which is young boys. So women are likely pedophiles more often than men. You hear all this bullshit narrative about men who are somehow more likely to be pedophiles. More lies. So women are at least raping in equal numbers to men, yet you don't hear about it. And if you take into account men raped in prison, men are raped substantially more than women when you throw in the numbers of women who rape, which is at least equal to the number of men who are raped. Yet all the resources out there that exist to help rape victims are for women, none for men. Law enforcement doesn't believe men when they report rape. And when a man is raped by a woman, it's not even called rape. It's called sexual assault. And she gets less jail time for it because it's viewed as a lesser crime because she doesn't have a penis. It's unbelievable that the West allows this kind of injustice to happen. It's unbelievable that you people out there allow this stuff to happen, that you've allowed these feminist pinheads to take control and rule over us and lord over us with these contradictory double standard laws where one rule applies to one group, but it doesn't apply to another group, not so much. Even though they do the same goddamn thing, but they don't get the same goddamn amount of punishment. It pisses me off so much. My head's going to blow up from my blood pressure being so high if I don't stop talking about this fucking story. Pisses me off so much. So in summary, it's very clear that women are not the perpetual victims and non-perpetrators in this world, and that they are at the very least, equal in their propensity for being degenerates and evil scumbags as men. And I will close on that note. Please like and subscribe. And donate to my Patreon. You'll find a link in the description and in the last 20 seconds of this video. And please leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this story. And the fact that women are just as capable and are just as big a bunch of scumbags as men. I am the MGTOW philosopher, and I wish you a good day. Take care.